Each state has their own topography, their own personality. Like there's so much to do in each different state that is so unique and individual. And we don't talk about that enough. And that's so I'm really excited to actually talk about this. We don't celebrate America enough. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you on for that reason, for no other reason. No other reason, Stefan.
Yeah, you don't like me anymore, right? Why are you so mean, Bill?
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. Welcome into another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. Guess what? I have another fantastic guest today. This gentleman, I just want to know because he looks completely different with and without facial hair. What is his wife's preference? Maybe we'll never know. Maybe we'll find out, but that's not really the topic of the episode. I have Stephan. No, Stefan. I'm sorry. I have Stefan on the
Yes, sir.
episode today. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Stefan, would
Third
you
time's
please
the
tell
charm,
our
my friend.
would you please tell our listeners, who are you?
No, I appreciate you, Bill, and thanks for having me on. I mean, we were just talking offline about how much I love the concept of your show and how excited I am to be with you. So thank you for having me on. And my background, I guess I'll start from the generic sense. I manage an investment partnership called Vacation Wealth Partners. Originally, my big claim to fame back during the last crash in '08 to 2012, I sold a few hundred homes on eBay, which we haven't even rambled about that yet, but that was kind of my original thing during the last crash that allowed me to do a lot of travel through the Midwest because I was buying a lot of $1 homes in Detroit and Cleveland and kind of bouncing around there. And that was a fun experience too. But in the process of selling those hundreds of homes on eBay, I tried to create a website called listedby.com, which was supposed to be like eBay for real estate and an online marketplace and social network, and had some fun and some success with that. But ultimately, it didn't work out the way I thought as far as the marketplace worked out. But it worked out in the sense that we developed this huge community of like-minded investors and entrepreneurs and realtors all around the country and all around the world. And so really morphed into a digital marketing company and started driving traffic, creating some content, various things there, and got a lot of demand within my friends, family, and people in that network to showcase some of the properties that I was buying with some of the strategies that I talked about, showcasing other people's strategies that they were raising capital for and doing. And that led me to found Vacation Wealth Partners in 2017. And since then, we've been the largest buyer of seller financed income producing properties in the country, which is kind of like being the thinnest guy at fat camp because not a lot of people do it, but it is a true stat. And, it's really a blessing. We get to travel around the country buying beautiful properties and then helping other people create memories at those properties with luxury vacations. And we've got a couple of hotels as well. But the thing I was so excited about is, because I've been rambling at you offline here and we were having so much fun, we just decided, let's go ahead and record something here. I'm just freakishly passionate about travel as a consumer. I love the rewards programs. I love all the little things at the airports that most people hate. I love knowing the best truck stops to stop at on Highway 99 or I-5 going up and down the West Coast. I love all the little details that make it fun and exciting and the memories that you remember. So when I saw what you were doing here, this is, I can honestly tell you, and I haven't done a whole lot, but this is the most excited I've ever been to be on a podcast. So
Yeah,
Thank you for
I'm
having me.
really excited to let you down. What is
You're
that?
messing up so far, brother. You're messing up so far.
So, what does that even mean? Like, I never heard of someone selling home or trying to sell homes on eBay. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, eBay is an auction site, right? Were you literally auctioning off homes
Yeah,
at
I
that
mean, and it
time?
was a beautiful time. It was a crazy time because so I had just moved. I'm originally from Alabama, as you know now, and I had just moved to California when I was 22, 23 years old. And then a few years after that, the crash hits in '08. And, I didn't have a lot of money at that time. So the crash, I didn't really have any money. So the crash didn't hurt me. But I was seeing all of these homes on eBay in Detroit selling for two, three, $4,000. And I was like, that can't be right. And I thought, well, maybe I'll buy one. And I almost did. But then I thought to myself at 25 years old, I thought, well, if they're selling them that cheap, they got to be buying them even cheaper. So I somehow, I don't even remember how I did it. I somehow tracked down a list of asset managers with banks in the Detroit area. And I just started cold calling them from my bedroom in California and telling them that I was with a group and I wanted to buy their properties. And the first home I bought, I still remember the address, is 4064 Tuxedo Street in Detroit. I bought it for $600. And I thought, well, we'll just put it up on eBay, see what happens. And it sold for $6,800 5 days after I had bought it for 600. And then I was just hooked. And so,
Please
um,
don't go knock on their door and say I heard
no,
about your home on a podcast. Unless you're going to go and tell them, please
well,
listen to the podcast and then listen
you
to
know,
Stefan's podcast too.
well, we are safe there, though, Bill. I can tell you because I recently looked that address up, and the house has since burned down and been torn down. So now it's just an open lot.
Okay, well, go look for it then if you'd like to. It's
Yeah,
an adventure you can tell a story about.
if you survive, it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. I think Detroit's gotten a lot safer. At that time, we actually did have one guy that almost got stabbed going to that property, and I've got a bunch of stories
Oh
about that
gosh,
too. But yeah,
let's not talk about that necessarily. I mean, we could, I guess.
we'll do prettier stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, did you do Craigslist as well, or just
I don't even know if I guess Craigslist existed because this was '08. And we did use Craigslist later, like 2011, 2012. What we used Craigslist for was when I went live with the website listed by, we would get a lot of organic traffic from Craigslist because I would post properties on the site on Craigslist. And it actually, when you looked at the algorithm, it was actually cheaper to pay people to and do it myself to post thousands and thousands of Craigslist posting for real properties and then drive the track back to the site. We were getting tens of thousands of hits a month doing that actually in like 2011. But no, you would just put it up on eBay just like you were auctioning off baseball cards or a car or whatever else. And they had a lot of little intricacies to it back then. And this is almost 20 years ago, I guess now. So I don't know how it is now, but back then you could set a reserve price or you could just do a straight $1 auction with no reserve and just let it go where it was going to go. You could do a buy it now. And then after they bought it, you'd reach out to the buyer and you would transfer title on quitclaim deed. But yeah, that was kind of like the wild, wild west, my friend. That was an exciting and crazy time.
sounds like it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Inquiring minds want to know: does she prefer facial hair or no?
Yeah, I almost interrupted you, but I didn't want to spoil your flow there. But it's funny. She hates it. She really does. I get some compliments on it, from various people, but it's funny when the pandemic hit, I grew it out and I'd kind of always wanted to. And then I was like, I kind of dig this. And then I've just kept it. So I've had it for about 5, 6 years, but yeah,
and
my wife probably likes it the least.
and she's pissed.
She doesn't like it.
Well, hey, you got to be your own person, right?
Yeah.
So tell everyone, if you would, where do they find you? So what's your website? What socials do you have?
Yeah, so I guess probably the best one. So I don't actually one of the few people, I don't have an Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok or any of that normal stuff, but I do have LinkedIn and that's just my name, Stephan Piscano. And we do own the largest real estate group on LinkedIn, which is the Real Estate Networking Group. So always grateful to have anybody join us there. On YouTube, where we showcase a lot of the luxury vacation rentals that we're purchasing or partnering on, or just properties that we think are cool, that's Vacation Wealth Partners. So at Vacation Wealth Partners. And then not many people do, but if you want to hear me ramble about sports and all that nonsense, it's at Stephan Piscano on YouTube. And then my little podcast is the Stephan Piscano Show that we started last year that we're trying to grow as well. And always grateful to have people. If you want to learn about real estate or listen to me ramble about entrepreneurial strategies or sports or motivational stuff, then I'd be grateful to have you there as well.
And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes and everything. And again, he mispronounces his name as Stefan, but we would say like probably Stefan, but it's okay. It's
I told you, Bill, everybody on the East Coast thinks it's Stefan. Everybody on the West Coast thinks it's Steven. So I just answered anything with an S. So you can't, I'm unoffendable with the name. Sorry about it.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you this. So this is going to be a little bit of a unique episode, believe it or not. We're 20 plus episodes in, and you're the first person I think that I've talked to that really, for the most part, has not been outside the country. But I know that you have some really incredible stories and life experiences inside the good old USA. So we're going to talk about some really, really cool stuff that's happened to you. But I want to know, when did travel become a thing for you? Was there any travel when you were a youth, like when you were growing up, or like did your family do some traveling, or was it more later in life?
Yeah, and we briefly kind of touched on, we were getting to know each other a little bit offline, but so I had a pretty unique childhood, and people that know my backstory know a little bit about that. But I moved 33 times before I was 18, and most of that was bouncing around throughout different locations throughout the Southeast and later Oregon when I moved to the West Coast. And so it wasn't.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
How much of that do you remember? Because you were young, right?
Yeah, I was young for a lot of it, and there's a lot of it I kind of blacked out or I don't remember. But I mean, there's things I do remember too. And people, when I say this, they sound like it's like a woe is me thing, but I'm grateful. I wouldn't change anything. And I think I mentioned this to you when we were just getting to know each other too, but it's a blessing to me because the diversity of bouncing around so much. Number one, you don't get boxed into any one thing that any specific area would box you into. And number two, you get to meet so many different types of people to where now I feel like that helped me as an adult I can have a great conversation, thankfully, and care about somebody from all different walks of life. I mean, I'm from Alabama. I've also spent a large part of my adult life living in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I've got friends of all different, everything you want to call it. And I connect with all of them. And I think that I can attribute some of that to my childhood. I mean, and it was chaotic, but I mean, I do remember as a 12-year-old or 13 or 14, when we were really bouncing around at different points, and you're in one place, you might be in a duplex for 2 or 3 months or 4 months. And, you can either be stressed out by it and let it be a negative, or it can be transformed into a positive to some extent. And you can be excited about what's the next place. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on your show and we're talking about travel. I think that that's part of what has been such a fortunate thing for me, that I enjoy exploring so much as an adult now, when I don't have to move and run around and bounce around, because I was kind of programmed for that. Does that make sense?
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And it's cool that you actually have positive memories of that, because I feel like a lot of people in that situation would look at that and say, well, that was terrible because I went from school to school, made friends, lost friends, whatever. Like, how was that for you?
I didn't like it at the time. And honestly, I mean, and I don't even know if I would say I'm not looking back on it fondly, because it was rough, to be honest. But in retrospect, I can say, you can turn a negative into a positive, and I'm grateful for having that experience. And
yeah, well, let me correct myself. So maybe it wasn't positive memories, but you look at it as it was a positive in your life.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yep. Okay. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
and I agree 100%. And, and then when I came, honestly, I mean, and I love the people in the South. I have still a lot of family and friends down there, and we've got family. My brother's stationed there in Jacksonville, and we spend 3-4 months out of the year in Florida. We own a lot of properties in Florida. It's a great place, but I hate the weather. I don't really care for the scenery. So when I first came to the West Coast, And I remember the first time, and in my long-winded answer to your actual question, did we do a lot of traveling growing up? Not really. I mean, there's little things here and there, but it was more just survival traveling. And so when I came to the West Coast and I first got to Oregon, and they took me to Crater Lake, first time I came to Oregon, and it was just the most beautiful thing. Because, in the South, the water is mostly brown, and so you see this big, just crystal blue, massive lake surrounded by a mountain range that looks like it was made up in a movie. And I just fell in love with that type of scenery, mountains, trees, cold weather. So anyway, I'm rambling at you now,
I
but
love rambling. Rambling is fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that started my kind of addiction in my 20s with, well, now I'm on the West Coast. Let me explore this area. And we were talking a little bit about that too. Like it's weird. Like I'm grateful to have been to some stereotypically incredible places, and we own properties in places like Park City, Utah, and Vail, Colorado, and Panama City Beach, Florida, Newport Beach, Alaska, all these things that are incredible. And I'm grateful. And I got good stories about those places too. But some of my fondest early travel memories are like driving up and down the West Coast for work, going through places like Tehachapi, California, and going over the rolling hills there. Or, if you do that drive, which when I first was working for a group, we were buying a bunch of properties in Las Vegas. So I would drive from Napa, California to Las Vegas once a week, back and forth. And there's that part in the desert, the Mojave Desert, where you're coming up. And I would always try to hit it at sunrise. You watch the sunrise over that mountain range in the desert, and it's 90 degrees at 6 a.m. But it's just
Jeez.
those little things are special to me.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I'll be honest with you, I'm actually really excited about this because I've talked about this on another episode before, how when you think about like international travel and you think about all these different countries that you can go to, you don't realize that like the United States is actually, even though we divide what we have up into states, it's a lot like a bunch of little individual countries in a way,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
each state has their own identity. Each state has their own topography, their own personality. Like there's so much to do in each different state that is so unique and individual. And we don't talk about that enough. And that's so I'm really excited to actually talk about this. We don't celebrate America enough. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you on for that reason, for no other reason. No other reason, Stefan.
Yeah, you don't like me anymore, right? Why are you so mean, Bill?
So let's get into the meat of the episode. Let's just go into where have you been?
As you alluded to, 46 states, technically. My favorite locations that I've probably got the best memories of are Alaska, which, I mean, that's a story in itself that I can bore you with if you want. But I've got multiple odd connections to the great state of Alaska. And like you said, like I was starting to ramble about there a bit too. I think for me, I remember when I first moved to California from Oregon at that point, and there was a couple that brought me to California, Frank and Vinny, that when we were working, in one of the most beautiful parts in California, maybe one of the most beautiful parts in the country or the world, in the Napa Valley. And I remember driving in to the office in Calistoga with Frank, and I would say every time I'd look at the vineyards and I look at those ruins, I'd be like, "Man, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And he would tell me, he was a pretty flamboyant guy. He'd say, "Shut up, Stefan." I've been lived here for 40 years. I've seen this enough. I don't. And I told him back then, and this was 20 plus years ago now. I said, Frank, if we drive by this thing every time for the next 40 years, I'm going to tell you it's beautiful every time, because it is. And so for me, once I was able to explore other places that I hadn't been before and do it in a way that was for fun, like, New York City, even going there, I didn't enjoy that. It was a little chaotic for me, but I loved seeing, the history of New York City and Washington, D.C. I actually love Washington, D.C. It's one of my favorite East Coast cities. Dallas, Texas, just getting to find out, like you just said, each place, each city really is its own little organism, and getting to explore that and connect with it is, for me, just a really addictive thing.
Yeah. And do you find like when you go to different places Do you actually try to connect with people when you're there? Like, I guess whether you're traveling with your family or friends, or I don't know if you've done solo travel. We didn't discuss that, but
Yeah.
do
Oh, yeah.
you do you try to connect with others when you're in places?
Yeah, and that's good. I'm glad you said that too, because that's one of my favorite things about it, especially with flying. And I don't fly as much as I used to. I used to fly about 80 times a year for about 10 years. And that was my favorite thing about it is just whoever you sit next to, the connections you make on that plane. And that's it's kind of like what we're doing here on your podcast in a way, because you have this little snapshot in time where you're in this isolation chamber with one person and you don't know anything about them. And you can choose, are you going to put your headphones on and go to sleep, or are you going to
Yeah,
connect with that person? And for that hour or 4 hours, or however long the flight is, you can feel like you're best friends or family, and
this
then you
flight's
never see them
delayed, by the
again.
way.
What's that?
This flight is delayed, by the way. We can't land,
Now you
so
got me. No, no.
we're
But
gonna
yeah,
we're gonna
no. Yeah.
yeah we're gonna circle the runway for a while.
Oh, I got a story about that. I
Go
got a.
for it. Go for it,
Oh,
man. I want stories.
all right, you can just edit the ones that you like and get rid of the ones you
We're
don't.
not
But
editing anything, so you keep
okay, all
going.
right. Well, I'll try to be more polished then. But no, there was a huge. Where was I flying? I had flown. I don't even remember where I was flying to, but we had a layover in Seattle, and this wasn't that long ago. This was like early 2018, I think. And there was those huge snowstorms all in the northwest coast, and we were going to come into Seattle airport. We were going to land in like 20-30 minutes. And one of the cool things with Alaska Airlines, you fly that much or any airline, they give you the free first class upgrade. So I was in first class, and they start circling the runway, and they say after about an hour of circling, they say, "Well, we can't land. We're going to have to reroute the flight to Spokane." And we were like, "What?" And it was kind of a scary deal. Long story short, we ended up landing in Spokane, and then we sat on the runway for 6 hours before ultimately staying the night there. But they kept thinking they were going to get to take off again. And the 8 people or whatever that I was sitting around on that flight, which was the most diverse group of people you could ever imagine. There was one guy who was like a machine worker guy from Alaska. There was a guy who was on the oh gosh, a fashion runway show that's real famous that I'm blanking on the name of. There was, a yoga and expertise person. There's just all these different people. And then me, this weird guy from Alabama. But we all became like we called ourselves the Breakfast Club. And we ended up going to dinner in Spokane and just you make what feels like lifelong friends. And that's just now I've never seen any of them or talked to any of them since, but those moments are special.
I'm sure it's special for everyone that was involved too. Like that's the cool part about it is they have different memories, I'm sure, but similar memories that you do, and they're probably telling that story to their friends and their family even today, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think about them sometimes and want to try to reach out to some of them and see see how they're doing.
yeah, that's awesome. But in the moment, you don't necessarily think like, hey, let's trade, Facebook profiles or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, and I did actually with the one guy, with two of the guys, I got their info, and I think I sent maybe them a text here and there. But you know how it is. I mean, it's weird too because on the other side of that coin, for me at least, maybe it's just me, but I've had it before. Once you leave that little capsule, it kind of feels it's just different. I don't know. You can still have that connection, but it's almost like it's a moment locked in time that it's hard to recreate
Yeah, I don't think
outside.
that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
But I
Yeah.
love the fact that like things like that create those memories that you again, sometimes you can't like recreate the memories of like just meeting somebody or whatever. Those experiences that you have, you can't recreate. So that's awesome. I love stories like that so much.
Yeah.
Can we transition just because I know that you're excited to talk about Alaska? Can we talk about Alaska and see where we go from there?
Yeah, well, and it's funny because, and I don't want to keep alluding to, stuff that we talked about before we hopped on here, but you made me think of it. I was thinking about when I first was going to do your show, I was thinking about all the normal stuff like, okay, well, what kind of food do I like in Newport Beach? Or like, what's the best diner in Denver, which Sam's number 3 is the best diner in Denver, by the way. But anyway, and then you mentioned another show you did and somebody was talking about Canada. And I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm an idiot. Why would I not talk about Alaska? Because there was a trip to Alaska that changed the entire course of my life, because I had, I was still in my early 20s. I had moved to Oregon at that point, and I was working for a firm that did tax lien litigation stuff. And I actually had bought a house at 20 years old, which I was pretty proud of. Of course, they were giving home loans to anybody with a pulse at that time, so it wasn't that impressive. But I mean, I did that. And
So
for
was
somebody that
this
didn't, what's
was
that?
was this around 2008?
Yeah, it was before that, but it would have been like 04, 05.
So
Yeah.
it was pre-California.
Pre-California. Yeah.
What actually brought you to Oregon?
That was my mom.
Okay.
My mom, and I got to give her credit for that too, because, and I won't get into the details there, but a lot of moving around, and her having the guts to choose to want to start a life with her kids in Oregon. That was a great thing for us too.
She sounds like, from what you've said to me in the brief amount of time that we've talked, like a really incredible person.
Yeah, she's a very, I'm trying, I'm blanking on the word I want to use, but she's a very loving person, and she's got balls. I don't know how else to say it.
It's good.
She's a
That's a
ballsy
good
person,
that's a good term.
you know. Yeah, but so I was living there, and I kind of felt pretty good about, myself at that, at 22, whatever I was. And then I got an opportunity, kind of a unique opportunity, to go up to Alaska, and I did that, and just for a trip. And when I was up there, I'm right at the beginning, I met this couple, Frank and Vinny, and they were, Frank, like I said earlier, he was a real flamboyant guy. I hope he's doing okay. I haven't talked to him in 10 plus years, but anyway, we really hit it off. He liked my sense of humor, I liked his, and we just really connected. I ended up spontaneously spending the whole trip bouncing around the state of Alaska with them, and going to all these remote places like King Salmon, Alaska, and Homer, and Sitka, and all these places, and just had a great time. But to bring it full circle, which I didn't know it would work out this way, but with what we were just saying on the plane situation, I assumed that was going to be just a great memory, that I would never see them again, and that was that. But we did exchange emails and phone numbers. And about a month after that, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we really want you to come down to California. We want you to move to Napa and run our import export business."
What?
And what's
Like,
that?
what?
I know, yeah. And when they now, it's a small operation. It was like it was very, so it's not as fancy as it sounds, but basically they wanted me to just kind of be their assistant, high level, whatever you want to call it, project manager or whatever. I don't even remember what the title was, but they were doing import exports of teak furniture from Indonesia, and I think they still do, if they're still around, which I pray they are. But anyway, yeah, they wanted me to basically just kind of come down and do whatever they wanted me to do. And I, at the time, I first said no, because I was like, well, no, I mean, I got a job here. I was living in Bend, Oregon, which is also a beautiful place, and owned the home. And I'm like, I can't just move to California for people I don't really know. But then I flew down there for the first time, and they gave me a tour of the Napa Valley, and I just fell in love with it. And I thought, well, let's take a risk. And that decision and meeting them on that trip to Alaska literally changed the entire course of my life. So
That's incredible. I hope you can reconnect with them at some point, because
I've
that's
been trying to recently, actually. It's funny we're talking, maybe Frank will hear this, but I looked him up, like, I don't know, 2 months ago, and I tried to send an email and a text, but I haven't heard anything back. But he would be probably about 78 years old now, maybe 80, somewhere around there. So I hope he's doing well.
yeah. I hope so too. So that's what actually brought you to California then.
Yeah, that was it. And then I actually only worked with them for, gosh, like a year and a half, maybe year and a half. And then we got in. That was when I started with the Detroit stuff in '08. After, and then I told Frank, I said, I'm going to try doing the real estate, because real estate had always been something I was passionate about. And I told him, I said, I'm going to go and try and do this. And I remember he said to me when I was leaving, and we left on great terms and we're still friends, but he said, "You're crazy." He said, "I can't believe that you're going to go just do this thing. And I had no idea what he was talking about or what he meant by that. But I guess looking back in hindsight, I can understand. I mean, at 35, I might not have taken that risk, but at 25, it's a different deal. And yeah, but so even though I didn't really have them in my life for that long, total about 2 years, they were really some of the people that had the biggest impact ever on me.
Did your
So,
mom follow you to California then?
no, well, no, she stayed up there for several years, and then actually when things started going well for me, we got a property that she moved to in Redding, California, from Oregon, and then that place actually burnt down in
With the
20.
wildfires?
No, it was a house fire actually. My
Oh,
stepfather, I guess I wasn't there, and this was 2018, so it's been a little bit, but I think he had an oil lamp or something that got knocked over by a dog. And my mom was actually, ironically, with me, and we were on a trip with my wife. Actually, we were driving through Utah. We were driving through Utah back to Southern California, and then she got the call that their house was on fire, and so yeah, it burnt down. And then they moved back to Oregon, so they still live in Oregon now. They live in Redmond, Oregon, right now,
okay.
which is right by Bend.
Okay.
And I have a question for you, Bill, because I'm always curious about this because you're an East Coast guy. Um, have you heard of Bend, Oregon? Because it's kind of like a hidden gem for the West Coast, I think.
I mean, the name sounds familiar, and I don't usually do questions, so
Okay, well, fine.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I have heard of it, but I don't know really anything about it.
Okay, well, if I can give a normal, other than my sappy, long-winded, sentimental stuff, if I can give it
You
just a
can give
normal.
long-winded and sappy. We're happy with that.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you're happy, but I mean, just a normal travel tip for people that don't, and everybody on the West Coast, I think, does know, but Bend, Oregon is one of the most spectacular. It's the fourth largest ski mountain or resort or whatever, Mount Bachelor in the country. And a lot of people don't even know it exists. So, highly recommend Bend, Oregon.
That was it.
I can give you more. Give you more if you want.
I mean,
It's late for you. I don't want to keep you up till 2 a.m.
hey, nobody knows what time it is. What
Yeah, that's
what
true
else?
too.
What else? Like tell me your experiences in Bend, Oregon. Like
Well, and Bend, it's kind of funny because, like, I mean, I don't actually have like, that's the funny thing too that I forget sometimes, and I often realize, like, because I moved around so much as a kid and because I've moved around so much as an adult, I don't really have any one town that I feel like, oh, that's my hometown, or that I have like a massively strong connection to than anywhere else. But Bend is kind of the place that keeps always bringing me back because it was the first place I really lived in Oregon, got established. And then even after moving to California, then years later, I've bought investment properties there. Even right now, the company, Vacation Wealth Partners, we're actually trying to do a small townhome development there right now. But it's a special place. I mean, it's grown a lot. I think it's the fastest growing city in the state of Oregon. It used to be, when I originally moved there, it was an old mining town and kind of an old mill town because of all the trees. But you just got, obviously huge, beautiful mountains with Mount Bachelor, and then tons and tons of lakes and rivers. I mean, if you like the outdoors, it's a spectacular place to be. Great hiking. Monkey Face Rock was a favorite place of mine to hike. And then Facebook actually opened up a corporate office there in a town called Prineville, which is in the middle of nowhere, but it's about half an hour from Bend. So anyway, yeah, they're growing quite a bit, but it's a special place to me. I'd say for me, the most special places are, of course, Napa, Bend, Alaska, and then the Tahoe area. Actually, Tahoe's a special place to me as well.
well, tell me, even whether it's one of those places you just mentioned or anywhere else, just like tell me one of your favorite stories if you and I are just sitting down and just relaxing in a like a cool jazz bar, having a cocktail or
You might have
whatever,
better taste in music than me.
and we're just the topic of travel comes up, and you're like, I have to tell you about this story that happened to me. Tell me, what is that? Where are you, and what happened?
Gosh, Well, and that they're just so diverse, and I like the little things. So I mean, I don't know if it would be exciting to anybody else, but it's the little things that I remember, like, um,
We
you
love the
know,
little things. We love
yeah,
those.
yeah. I mean, I can tell you, Denver is another for just pure travel. For whatever reason, always had a lot of fun memories and times in Denver. I love the food there and good experiences with the people. The things that I remember, I'm trying to think of,
I was going to say,
trying
tell
to,
me about something with the people. Tell me experiences that you had with the people in Denver.
well, the first one that comes to mind is when my wife and I were dating. I took her to Denver, and when you're in that early stage of relationship where you're just not thinking about anything except having fun, and you're just eating good food without any remorse for the calories, and we went to see Robert Plant there from Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I remember just walking in the downtown area, and it was like probably 20 degrees because I think that was in January or February. And they have just this beautiful little light set up in the center of downtown with the trees, and my then girlfriend didn't bring a coat, and so I remember giving her my coat, and I just remember freezing my ass off for this mile or so walk to go see Robert Plant, but being so happy about it at the same time.
You're so sweet.
Well, thanks. Just because now I get to tell the story and people say I'm sweet. So now that I could envision that. No, I'm kidding. But
She's going to
but
listen, right? So yeah,
yeah,
you're
I'm trying to get
great.
points
You're a
here.
great man.
I'm trying to remind her so she can forgive me for the beard.
It doesn't matter. Every time she kisses you, it's you're screwed,
Yeah,
man.
it's like needles. That's what she says. I probably just need to use some kind of better product or something for her. I don't know.
Beard
But
butter.
yeah, that's what I need to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's a great story though. But I mean, and then I mentioned it earlier as kind of a joke, but just the Sam's Number Three Diner in downtown Denver is my favorite restaurant anywhere in the country. That place is just off the charts, massive double plate portions and good food. And I'm the palest half Lebanese guy that you'll ever meet, so I really like Greek food and Mediterranean food, and so they got a lot of that there, and so that was great experience. But I think that's a good location for the combination of fun, low key stuff with if you want high end stuff like Elway's Steakhouse, that's there too. Another story that I'm just thinking of here, and for some reason I don't normally talk much about my mom on this, but we kind of are. So I've got a funny story with my mom and I. It's funny to me anyway. We were driving together from Sacramento, California to Salt Lake City, Utah, and we had
Why?
about, I don't know, a
Why
quarter
were
of a
you?
tank.
Why were you?
I think that I was looking at a property or something for a client. I actually don't remember, and she just happened to be in the California area, and I asked her if she wanted to go, and she said yes. And we still spent a decent amount of time. We don't get to see each other as much in person these days, but we still spent a good amount of time together.
You need to fix
Then
that.
what's that?
You need to fix that.
I think so. I actually am probably going to see her next week. I think actually, so I'm
Good.
excited about that.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes.
do a memorial thing, and she's a realtor now too, and kind of works with me, which is fun. But it's always from a distance. So I think we're going to do a family decorating of a condo that the company just bought together for a little fun thing next week. But
Nice. I didn't mean to sidetrack you. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's easy to sidetrack me, Bill. You can
Well,
tell.
I do that.
But no, we were driving on that I-80 there, and had about a quarter of a tank, and we kept trying to find these places to stop. And there's some pretty, I don't know how many people have done that drive, but if you've done that drive, you know what I'm talking about. You go through Elko in the center of the state of northern Nevada, and then you go through towns like BM, and you get into, now I'm blanking on it, of course, but the town right on the border of Utah and Nevada, where they have these casinos that are offering like $39 hotels. And they look pretty nice from the outside, but you go in and it kind of has a real hills have eyes feel to it. And so we went into like this neon Denny's at like 2 a.m. when we're doing this drive, and we were trying to find a place to stay, and everybody was booked up. And so we just kept driving and driving. And then we finally hit a stretch of about there's a stretch, I looked it up at the time, it was 99 miles at the time on I-80 from that stretch of Nevada to Salt Lake, right when you go from the border where there's no gas station.
Was it Wendover?
Wendover, that's it. Thank you. That's
You're
it.
welcome.
Yeah. Did you just know that, or did you look it up for me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you either way. But I just would have been anyway. But yeah. So we're slowly running out of gas, and it's obviously a pretty stressful thing, and it's the middle of the night in the desert, and we're just praying like, oh gosh, are we going to see a gas station? We go 50 miles, 60 miles, 70 miles and nothing. And then we just on fumes, literally it ran out of gas still on the highway. And we managed to just on inertia roll for another, I don't know how many miles, and into the first truck stop, which I think I remember that town is Thule, Utah, right when you come in, that had the first gas station. And we just rolled in literally out of gas into that gas station. And those are those are things you remember because, and I guess there's a theme developing here with my stories anyway, to where the stuff I like the most is when you take something like a delayed flight where you're circling the runway and make it a fun night with new friends, or like running out of gas in the desert with your mom, and then you turn it into a happy memory and a story of succeeding, I guess. I'm learning something about myself.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
This is great. And so it all turned out well. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, we got gas and we didn't die, and we've been laughing about that story. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have. I'm probably not doing it justice. You probably have to be there and feel the ups and downs and that, because when you think you're going to run out of gas, you're on pins and needles every second. So it's another high intensity situation, but it can connect you. It can bring you.
Absolutely. So where else have you traveled in the U.S. just for pleasure, not for work?
Just for pleasure. Park City,
like as an adult.
Yeah, just for pleasure. I mean, Park City's a favorite place. There's a lot of little places in Southern California that I love. I mean, Newport Beach has some really cool spots that have been special to me and other people.
Have you explored Northern California?
Oh yeah, actually. See, thank you, Bill. This is why you're great at what you do there. So I would have never remembered if you hadn't said that.
Preach.
This is our Canada moment, because Sea Ranch actually is an incredible. I love the Mendocino County, Northern California coastline. And actually, yeah, what am I talking about? I'm glad you said that. And my favorite place, which I can't believe I blanked on it, because the company just bought a property there, is Carmel by the Sea, California, which is right by Pebble Beach and Monterey. And that one, when I first moved to the state of California too, I had never been a runner. I always lifted weights growing up, but I mean, I kind of just did like the 80s high school football player workout, just bicep curls and bench press. That was it. But when I got to California, I started long distance running and just fell in love with it. And the first marathon I ever ran was the Big Sur Marathon on the Central California coastline. And that was just heavenly, still is.
The views are just incredible.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, anybody, and you too. I mean, I invite you. If you have not familiar with that area, Google videos of the Central California coastline, and specifically Carmel by the Sea and the 17-mile drive in Pebble Beach. And it's to me, that's probably the most beautiful place in the country. And that race is fun too, the Big Sur Marathon, because they do something that I hadn't seen before or since, to where every mile of the race on the side of the highway, because you're running right down the famous California Highway 1 right along the ocean. It's this cliff and you're just running right around the ocean there. And every mile, to kind of keep the people going, they would have a different attraction. They'd have a band playing, or they'd have a guy doing magic tricks, or they'd have like a bunch of kids performing something. And that was a pretty cool experience.
It's awesome, man. Like I can sort of visualize like just running on a cliffside with the ocean next to you. How inspiring that would be. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's healing in a way. Yeah, it's hard to get tired. I mean, especially then in your 20s, it's hard to get tired anyway, but it's hard to get tired when you're looking at something that spectacular.
Yeah. Tell me about like some sort of a situation where you like because you've met some people in different situations. We talked about it a little bit already, but talk about a situation where you met somebody that we haven't talked about already, I guess, that just, I don't know, had some impact on you, whether it was in an airport or on a plane that was diverted, or just walking around a place and you went for
Yeah.
coffee and you just happened to have a conversation with someone. Or is there anything like that that hit you?
Gosh, the problem I'm having is it's not a problem. I'm grateful for it, but there's so many little ones that all matter to me and I remember all of them. Because that's the thing. And I guess it's kind of my OCD style personality that I obsessively catalog all of this stuff in my head and it all matters to me. So it's hard for me to pick one or two to focus on. And so then I probably end up telling you guys silly stories or telling, but I'll keep doing it. I mean, the first thing that came to mind when I said that is that it was just kind of an insignificant thing in a way, but I was just on a normal commuter flight going from, I think, San Francisco to Portland, Oregon. And I hit it off, had a good conversation with this guy I was sitting next to and chatted with him for the flight and connected with him. But then once I got off the plane, I went into the Alaska Lounge there in Portland, which is the best one in the country, in my opinion. Portland Airport's the best airport, in my opinion. But anyway, and this guy came up to me who had been sitting behind me that I didn't talk to at all on the flight. And he said, "Hey, Stefan," and he pronounced my name right too, Bill. But
Nice.
he said, "Hey,
Stephen,
Stefan."
Stefan.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Stefani. Stefan. I actually met a Stefan once, but anyway. But yeah, he came up to me afterwards and he said, "Stefan, I heard your conversation and I just really wanted." He wasn't hitting on me or he just connected with the conversation I was having with the other person. And I gave him, he gave me his card. I gave him a card and talked with him for a while. And that's cool in the sense, it's something about just from a motivational aspect. And I don't even remember what we were talking about, but there was something that connected with him and then in turn connected with me. I love that kind of thing. I mean, I had one time recently in Florida where I got picked up by an Uber or Lyft or whatever it was. And I could just tell the guy was in a really bad mood who picked me up. And he thought when I first got into the car, as I said to you offline, I don't know if I've said it on here, I really don't do good with heat. That's why I love Tahoe. I love Alaska. I love mountains. Maybe it's the grass is greener thing from growing up in the South, but I just don't like heat. I don't like humidity. And so I got in the car and he had his air conditioner off and it's like 85, 90 degrees. And I asked him if he could turn the air conditioner off. And I could tell it came across to him in a negative way. And so I said, well, I said to myself, my goal is by the end of this car ride, I'm going to try to get this guy to know that there's no hard feelings, that I like him. And by the end of the car ride, which is only like 40 minutes, we were talking about sports and we were laughing. And he actually was talking to me about something he was going through with his family. And at the end of the car ride, he got out of the car and we hugged and we said goodbye. And I gave, I guess the kids call it now dapping up, I guess. And it's just little stuff like that where you get to connect with people and just impact their life that you never see again. I mean, from a more tangible standpoint, I mean, I've got a bunch of cool, I flew to on when the website first went live, listed by, and we started having marketing clients. Quicken Loans was one of our first big marketing clients, and they flew me to, or I flew myself, but they invited me to Detroit for their Isms Day, they call it, where they basically have everybody in the company, they do it once a year, comes and they all do presentations and they all kind of get jazzed up, that kind of thing. And they had me come for that as a marketing partner. And I was there, and Dan Gilbert, who is a multi-billionaire and owns Quicken Loans or founded Quicken Loans. But the reason I knew Dan Gilbert is because I'm a diehard sports fan and he owns the Cavaliers too, Cleveland Cavaliers. And so as I'm sitting there just as a spectator, somehow somebody said, "Hey, this is Stefan. He has a website." And they asked me to stand up in front of like 700 people, which terrified me. But I stood up, and Dan Gilbert had me do a live demo for him of my website. They put it up on the screen when he was up on stage and just explained to him how it worked. And nothing came of that, but it was just a fun little moment for me. So anyway, yeah.
That's fantastic. Honestly, like you're talking about these little moments that maybe don't mean so much to whatever, but I think that those moments when if you can have human connection with someone, like that's so important. Like I think that's huge.
It's
I don't
everything.
think that's
Yeah.
little at all. So I love that idea of even just riding in an Uber where you could just kind of pull back in your shell and be on your phone and be in your own little world, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And maybe the driver even gets a 5-star review because they did their job and they
He
don't
got a
have to
pretty big
entertain
tip.
you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And but the fact that you kind of go out of your way to make a human connection with somebody, I think it's huge.
Well,
And I
and it
think
can
that
change your, what's that?
I just feel like more people should do that because it can create memories that you could, like, you'll have forever,
Yeah.
like,
I
so
mean, that was a few years ago, and I'm still talking about it with you right now on a podcast, right? So, I mean, and it was, and I don't even know the guy's name, but yeah, it can, whether somebody's kind to you or you're kind to them or you're kind to each other or you connect however you connect, it can change the whole course of your day, right? I mean, it can take a stressful moment and somebody just smiling at you. It sounds cheesy, like it should be a thing, but it's so, I mean, try it. It's true. Like you just smile at somebody and they smile back at you, you can immediately be in a good mood.
yeah, absolutely. So let's what I guess what's one of your favorite cities that you've been in the United States outside of like Utah or California
You know,
or Denver?
yeah, well, I'm trying to, I mean,
Have you spent time
sit,
in New York City?
I have, yeah. I was thinking about if I wanted to bring that up. And again, for just me, even though I've lived in some bigger city and spent a lot of time in bigger cities, I'm still kind of a small town guy. So I get a little flustered with that level of action. So, but I mean,
Sure.
I liked it too. It was a cool experience. I mean, I think I've been there 3 times to New York City. And I think all of them have been in January or February. And so it's always been cold.
Oh, why?
Uh, yeah, I just worked out that. I think it was a conference. I think when we were promoting the website, it was the first time I went. But I mean, I
Well,
remember
that's
digging.
that's really stupid. Don't
Well,
have a
do
conference
you
in New
know New
York
York
City
pretty
in
well?
January.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why I had a negative experience. I mean, it wasn't a negative experience in any way. It was positive, but I mean, I just remember being really, my face was numb by the time I got done walking wherever I was walking
It's
to. I remember
very
that.
cold. It's
Yeah.
very cold.
In the
Yes,
wind, right? I mean, the wind will get you too.
absolutely. They talk about
Yeah.
Chicago as the windy city. New York
Oh, yeah,
City
I
is a
love.
very windy and cold in January. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and I mean, but that was, I mean, walking from whatever hotel I was at that the event I was at was which I don't remember which one it was. It was some Marriott, I think. Walking from there to by Central Park and walking to the Empire State Building, of course, like everybody probably does when they go there the first time, and going up to the top. I mean, that was a pretty special, cool moment for a kid from Alabama that never knew I'd get to travel anywhere. That meant something to me. And obviously the view's spectacular. And I remember the hotel rooms oh no, I was staying at a Best Western, that's right. And it was a nice Best Western, but and the company, the website, I'd got rooms for myself and my marketing director. And I remember I was complaining to him because my room was so tiny and it was supposed to be like a bigger room, but it was this. And then he said, well, come check out my room. He said, I think they gave me your big one. And I said, okay, let me come down to yours. And I opened the door and the door touched the bed. It wouldn't, because his was that he was standing on the bed with this look of anger in his eyes. And it was pretty
Standing
funny.
on the bed.
Yeah, he was literally standing on the bed with his hands at his side, looking at me with this face of like, I hate you. Because I booked the room for him and I didn't mean to. I didn't know it was going to be that small, but it was the tiniest room I've ever seen. Anyway,
That's
um,
incredible.
Roger, my guy, I'm sorry, Roger, if you hear this. I'm sorry, buddy. I love you.
That's
Anyway.
incredible. Can I ask you, when you go to places, that when you're actually there and have some time to actually explore, do you make it a point to actually walk? Because you said something about walking in New York City, and that's, like, to me, that's one of the best ways to actually experience a place,
Yeah.
whether you're talking to people or going into places or not. Just being able to actually see the sights and really experience the city that you're in, I think walking is like the best way to do that.
I agree 100%. And probably, I mean, you might know, it sounds like you might know New York better than me, or I'm pretty sure you do. But to me, that's probably, would you say that's the most walkable city?
I don't know that it's the most walkable city. I think there's many really walkable cities, but to really experience the dichotomy, the differences, the neighborhoods change so fast. So we talked about the United States being so diverse and so different, and so within New York City, there's so many different feelings and vibes
Yeah. Yeah.
and personalities, and it changes so fast from one place to another that I think walking there is probably different than walking in some other cities. I will say, like, I live in Pittsburgh and there's so many different areas here, but it's so much more spread out. So
Yeah.
I don't think walkability is necessarily the thing here. I think you almost have to travel to an area and then walk, and then you get to experience that area.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that's,
New York
yeah.
City's different in that way that you could walk and go from one place to another and just feel a different vibe over and over.
Yeah. And that is a beautiful thing about both New York City and the state of California. There's so many different types of feelings and scenery and food and culture that you can just experience wherever. Yeah. I mean, and that's where, like in Alaska, you know, you can do that with hiking, but you're not really going to walk it because you mean you just be, you'd be hiking at that point. You wouldn't really be be walking, but then places like I remember going to Chicago, you mentioned, for the first time, and I did the walk of, I walked all around Wacker Drive or whatever it is, and that was just incredible taking it in. The very first time I went to LA, and so this is funny too. Like, obviously, like I've mentioned, I grew up mainly in Alabama, and somehow I became a diehard Laker fan because the first basketball game I ever watched was Magic Johnson, and I just thought he was the coolest guy I'd ever seen, and I was like, man, that's my team. And so, growing up from a distance, never having been to California, I was this just hardcore Kobe Laker fan, all that. And when I first moved to Northern California and had been there for about 6 to 8 months, I, for some reason, was like, I didn't even have a reason to go, but I was like, I want to see LA. And I flew down there, and I remember walking, I took a cab to Sunset Boulevard. And I remember walking up and down Sunset Boulevard, and it was like a kid in an 80s movie looking around at all this stuff around me. And I was like, whoa, it was a culture shock, but it was great. And just all the energy. So I agree with you 100%. That's the best way to, especially with bigger cities, I think that's the best way to explore and get a feel for the energy.
Yeah, I take it for granted, I think, because I feel like people who travel, like, they know it. But for those that maybe travel less often and more recreational, they maybe you don't know. Like, yeah, park your car somewhere and just walk, because
Yeah.
you driving down these famous streets or these places that people recommend you to go, that's one thing, but you can't see it. Even if you're riding, you just can't see everything.
Yeah.
And I think walking is the best way, because not only are you seeing more, but you're smelling it, you're hearing it. There's many of the bigger cities, especially when you've got buskers on the street corners playing music, and like there's a vibe and there's a feel that you can't get if you just drive through. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's too
You
fast.
just see things that you would never see in a car when you're on your feet. It's a,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And on top of that, like we talk about actually having conversations with people. If you're open to it, have conversations with people. And you can
Yeah.
have conversations with whether they're locals that live there, or other tourists, travelers, whatever. Like, and don't be scared. Like, most places, when you go somewhere, I mean, yeah, if it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, okay, be protective, and you should always watch out for yourself. But for the most part, like, people are happy that you're there, and especially in the US, like, they don't necessarily know that you're not from there unless you make it obvious. So yeah, just be open to it and explore it and talk to people. Like
I have a story
that's
that,
what creates memories.
yeah, well, and you just made me think. I'm debating if I want to tell this because it kind of sounds,
Well, you have to know.
yeah, I know. But so I want to be clear. I'm not saying this to try to sound cool or whatever, but it's just a true story that was, I think you'll appreciate because I could see just from briefly getting, I could see you maybe doing something like this too. But so I was in Portland, Oregon, which, by the way, have you been to Portland, Oregon?
I have not, but it's sort of on my list.
I think you would love it. I think if you like New York, I think you'd like the food, and best food city in the country. But anyway, I was eating dinner, Portland City Grill, with a friend of mine, and it was around Christmas time, and and it was really cold, and I was like, would be kind of fun. Um, why don't we go to the mall? We ended up going to H&M, and let's buy a bunch of coats and let's go hand them out to homeless people. And so we went and we did that, and we bought like, I don't know, 30 coats, and we started going around and handing them out. And I ended up hanging out with homeless people for like, I don't know, 5 6 hours, and just getting to know them and hearing their stories. And honestly, some of the stories weren't so heartwarming, and some of them were really tragic, and it was just a mixture of everything. But if you and I don't recommend everybody doing that, because I mean that's a dangerous thing, I guess, maybe. But yeah, you can meet all types of people just by feeling comfortable walking around and connecting with everybody, and you never know, I mean, who you're going to meet. I mean, sometimes depending on the day, I might look like a homeless person with how I'm dressed, but you can meet me too. But anyway, so that's
I
my.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's something that most people don't think about. It tells a lot about your character, which I think is really wonderful. There's a show that's been out for a while, which I just learned about maybe a couple of days ago. By the time this airs, it's been months, but it's called You Can't Say That, or You Can't Ask That. You Can't Ask That. It's a show out of Australia that is on Netflix, I believe, and they have people from all walks of life. That I've only watched one episode so far, and it was little people, which, from what I learned from the episode, that's kind of the best way to describe. But they have people from transgender, they have people who are schizophrenic, they have people who, like, everything you can possibly think of that people might look at differently. And so people will write in like anonymous questions, and then they answer them truthfully, whatever the case is. And I think it's wonderful to have that like human connection, to know, like, well, they're still like real people and normal. They're still human beings, no matter what they're going
Yeah,
through in their life,
yeah.
whether they're homeless or they're whatever. And I'm sure there probably is an episode for homeless people that, you would hear questions to them. How did you end up homeless? Whatever the question is.
Yeah, because that's just a point in their life. I mean, like one of the kids that I gave a coat to, I don't know, he's probably 25, but he said that his dad was a big software executive, and he grew up, middle class, but then some real tragic stuff happened with his family, and it just kind of tore him apart, and then he decided to go explore what he was exploring. And so you never know. I mean, everybody's got whatever story that is, everybody's got one, whether it's, I mean, I've met some of my favorite people I've connected the most with at like in the lounges and airplanes over the years, like Vietnam veterans, and you hear some of their stories, and, everybody has got their own journey, without a doubt, and it should be respected.
Yeah. And I never intend for this podcast to be like just let's make it about humanity, but
Yeah,
there is some part of that in I think in every episode there's some part of it that's about humanity, whether we really purposely talk about it or not. There's something about humanity that in every episode we touch on it in some way or shape or form. And I think it's so important to realize and remember that no matter where we go, no matter what part of the country or the world or wherever we are, like, human beings are still human beings. We are still the same. Like,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
matter what circumstances we have, and some people like you said, I think, like for that kid, like he chose to be homeless because that was for him, that was the right decision.
He was getting away from a different kind of pain that he was dealing with. And
Right.
yeah.
And that was the best thing that he felt for him. And we can't judge other people's psyches and their situations and whatever. And we go to, especially if we go to other countries, because we don't understand necessarily like what's going on in other countries and other cultures. And just like, you judge, people judge the guy or the girl that's on the side of the road with a sign. And it just, I'm just being honest, like it happens. People say, or
Yeah.
people think like, do they really need the money, or could be working, like, right, they could just get a job. But that's not necessarily true. You don't know that.
Yeah,
Like,
and you don't know what's going on inside somebody's head. I mean, and I don't want to turn your podcast into like a whatever you want to call it, but I mean, I've been
this
wanting.
is okay.
Well, but I would like to do on my podcast, and maybe I'll have you on for that. But I want to do an episode on mental health because it's a really unique time for mental health because it's more accepted than it's ever been before. I mean, like when we were kids, you and I,
Yes.
like anxiety didn't exist. Like, I mean, if you had anxiety or depression, people just tell you to shut up and go,
Just
So
suck it up, man.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we dealt
and
with this forever, and we just did it.
yeah, and so it's good that, but I think that the things that people go through, but well, and you can edit this out if you want, because this is way off topic, but I'm wondering, it feels to me like there's certain mental illnesses now that are accepted and some that aren't, right? Like it's accepted to say you have anxiety or depression, but if you have schizophrenia, whoa, you're crazy, and I don't think that's cool. I think if you are battling something, whatever you're battling is a real thing, and it should be given the same level of respect that anything else would. Did I say that to where it makes sense, or am I
A
just,
1000%. Look, can't we just support each other?
yeah,
Like, we're all just
yeah,
trying to get through life, you know, no matter what.
yeah.
I mean, and I will say, like, for what it's worth, like, just to kind of bring it back, like, I know that a lot of people are not in a position to be able to experience travel. And so maybe that's not something that's in their cards. But that's, if you're in a position and you can, to me, like, that's one of the biggest things you can that's one of the easiest things you can do to try to help your mental health is get out of your whatever your bubble is, get out of it. So go somewhere, and if you're homeless, you can't, I get it, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about. Help people that are in need if you have the means to do so. But
And you can help them. It doesn't have to be money, right? I mean, just like we were talking about earlier, you can help people just with genuine acts of kindness, or conversation, or
of
of course,
course,
food, so a
yeah,
lot of ways to do it.
just acts of kindness. Just be a human. Just be a human being. Just be caring. But
Well,
yeah,
and I
I
think,
think. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I refuse.
All right, fine. Maybe we're going to say the same thing. I don't know, but I think that what you're making me think about and realize here too is that that's really, to me, that's really is what travel's all about, right? Because if it was just about the scenery, you could just put on your AI VR thing or whatever and just look at it or look at a picture or watch a movie. The point of travel is connecting with the place and connecting with the people, connecting with the smells, like the smell of a rain in Tahoe in October is heaven on earth to me, you know?
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yes. Yes. Absolutely right. There's a difference between vacation and travel. And that's why if you go to my merch store, you'll find a couple quotes that I have found that that I made some t-shirts about. But
nice.
no, but I mean that. Like, there's a difference between vacation and travel. And there's nothing wrong with either. If you want to go on vacation, go on vacation. Go to a beach somewhere or go to a city, and maybe you go to Paris and you go see the Eiffel Tower. go on
Yep.
vacation and then go back home. And that's it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are really passionate about travel, there's more to it. Travel involves interaction with people and really experiencing culture, experiencing the place that you're in, and really in like I don't want to say engulfing yourself, but really like really yeah, engulfing yourself in the place that you're in
Yeah.
and
Otherwise, what's the
experiencing
point?
it exactly. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with vacations, but travel is different than vacationing.
Yeah. I mean, you're just making me think. I mean, from a food standpoint too, right? Because like kind of your neck of the woods. Like the first time I went to Philadelphia, which was I
Not
was
my
only there
neck of
for.
the woods. Not my neck of the
I know
woods.
you hate them probably from a sports standpoint, but
I
you
don't hate
know,
them. I love them, but no, thank you.
well, the Philly cheese though, that's where I'm going with it. I mean, because what is it?
Mm,
Geno's and Nick's, right? That's the two Philly cheese spots for the real, genuine Philly cheesesteak.
supposedly, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I had to try both. And then like one of my best friends lives in the Cincinnati area. I was there for the first time and he told me their big thing is chili cheese coney dogs. And it's like this little miniature hot dog that's a steamed bun and just this famous Cincinnati chili on it. And I ate like 50 of those. But you got to eat the food, you got to meet the people, connect with the scenery. Because if you're just going to eat McDonald's or Del Taco or whatever you eat at home, then you might as well just stay home. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Watch some Netflix and whatever. Like if you want a hot dog, if you want a good Texas hot dog, go to Jamestown, New York, which is
Okay.
where I'm from. And
Okay.
we have two places. We have AJ's and Johnny's. Have you ever heard of a tenderized hot dog?
I don't
They
think I have. I don't
they
think I
both
have, Bill.
tenderize their hot dogs. You have to tenderize the hot dogs. I mean, it's otherworldly. Yeah, it's
That sounds
fantastic.
insane.
Yeah, it's really, it's really
We
good.
might have to do a spin-off food podcast for you because yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds
we'll do
pretty
some
good.
specials. I think we have a few different specials we can do from this. So let's just to stay on track, and we're
Yeah.
getting close to the end here because I want to be respectful of people's time. So, just is there any other place in the country, in Alaska? Have you been to Hawaii?
I have. I mean, to be honest with you, Hawaii didn't do a whole lot for me again, just
Oh, okay.
because
Well, let's shut that down. No, I'm
yeah,
just
it's
kidding.
just the weather. I mean, it's a beautiful place, don't get me wrong, but I mean, just again, my taste in weather, the humidity and the heat doesn't really work for me. But yeah.
It makes it tough.
Yeah.
But is there any other stories that you just feel like you have to tell before if I go to my final five questions, which could spur something in you?
I mean, I can just tell you, I mean, it would be kind of repetitive probably, but I mean, most of mine, I mean, like I remember going to Detroit for the first time and then driving from Detroit to Cincinnati to see my buddy that I mentioned earlier with the chili dogs. And, they gave me a PT Cruiser, not a PT Cruiser, a Mini Cooper, whatever that tiny little car was as a rental car. And it was the most intense rainstorm I've ever experienced. And I'm driving on what I guess is a pretty famous trucker route. I don't remember which highway it is. And every time a truck went by, I'm just getting huge waves of water on this tiny little car, and I'm a pretty hefty guy. And so it would just sway the whole car. And I remember feeling like that was my night to die and stopping at a parking lot in Bowling Green to wait for the rain to die down a bit. And like, but that's now a happy memory for me. And, it's little stuff like that. I mean, one hidden gem, I'll just couple of hidden gems, in my opinion, that people don't think about that I think are beautiful places is surprisingly like Kentucky. I don't know if maybe it's obvious there. It wasn't to me, but Kentucky, the rolling green hills there in South Ohio looks shockingly similar to the Napa Valley and Calistoga and places like that. Kentucky's a beautiful place to me. I had great times in Indiana. I mean, I could ramble at you, but well, for fancy places, Marco Island's incredible. Florida.
I've heard really good things.
Yeah, I mean Marco Island, and we had our honeymoon there actually. But I mean, yeah, Marco Island is if you want.
Tell us about the honeymoon. Did you have your
Um,
facial hair then?
that was when it kind of started. I started flirting, flirting with it then actually because we got married, and then
You're
all
like,
the
yeah,
hustle.
we're tied. We're done.
Yeah, now you can't get
You're
away.
stuck with me.
Now the werewolf's coming out.
Yes.
But hey, I was thinking about saying this earlier, but since you brought it up again, I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's funny you said that at the top when you did the intro, because I've looked at pictures of myself and I've thought like I could look like five completely different people and I think that's part of why I'm so big on like breaking down stereotypes and like giving everybody a shot to connect and see if we connect as people and not judge people on how they look, because I could look like completely different people depending on how I'm doing the dress and the hair and all that. So anyway, but yeah, no, we we got married and then I stopped. I just didn't shave for a few weeks after the wedding because it was so busy, and we went to Marco Island and all that. And we haven't talked at all about one of my big obsessions, which is rewards programs. But I'm a big Marriott rewards guy. I used to be a big Best Western rewards guy. And I cashed in, I think like 500,000 points, and we stayed at the Marriott there in Marco Island. And that's like, I mean, I haven't really done the international travel thing like you said, but that feels like you're in another country down there. I mean, that the beach energy, and it just feels like you're on some island somewhere. So very cool spot.
Yeah, it's because I'm not a tip and trick and point podcast. That's why.
There you go. There you
But no,
go.
that's awesome. No, I do appreciate that. So
No, I like it,
I,
bro.
I like it. So of all the places that you or the companies that you've done points and stuff with, is that the best?
To me, Marriott is, and honestly, I'm big on loyalty because I'll freakishly, obsessively be loyal. I try to, I feel like I am. I don't want to say that, but to people, I try to be, and then for the programs, I try to be too. For some reason, that's important to me. And I mean, like, actually, that story I just told about the rain. The reason I flew into Detroit was largely because Alaska, or it was Chicago actually. Alaska Airlines didn't fly into Cincinnati at that time. And so I wanted to stay loyal to them. And even like now, every time we go to see family in Jacksonville, Alaska Airlines doesn't fly there. So we fly to Orlando every time. And then I got to drive 3 hours to get to Jacksonville. But I do that. And so it's nice to get rewarded. And I like seeing the stats, I like seeing the accumulation of the miles. And I think Marriott, the airlines after the pandemic kind of all just kind of fell off the rails, in my opinion, from a customer service standpoint. It just kind of got, and I don't blame them. They were getting yelled at, and a lot of angry, crazy people too yelling at them and attacks. So I understand, but it wasn't as fun of an experience as it used to be. But Marriott and really all the hotels that I stay at, they kept the culture good. The energy felt good, and they do lots of great perks for you. I mean, like I said, that trip for the honeymoon probably would have cost 15 grand if you had to pay for it. And I got it for free with points. And so it pays to save. If you are traveling a lot and you're not doing rewards, then I think you're shortchanging yourself
Does
personally.
she know that it was free?
Oh, I brag about this stuff, Bill. I'm an open.
Stop it.
No,
You're
no,
not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say that I spent like $2,000 on those tickets, and the facial hair is just,
it's part of the
I
deal.
I can do that because yeah,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, yeah,
So
I I can see the logic. I can see the logic. I
um
do, if I can brag, just because of any of my other rewards junkies that I'm sure you have some that listen to this. I am about to hopefully hit my 2000th night with Marriott, which will be pretty exciting. I'm at like 1980, something like that. So I'm excited about that.
does that get you something else?
No, yeah, it's really not that dramatic. When you hit 1,000 anyway, I was so excited about that, and I thought maybe they'll do something cool, and it is cool. They sent me a luggage tag with my name on it. So if you stay a
Oh,
thousand nights with Marriott, you get a luggage tag.
that's nice. You can buy one of mine for 25 bucks.
It's not that expensive. I mean, I won't bore you with it, but I have a whole system for it because people hear that and they're like, "Oh, that you're spending so much money on it." But there's a way to do it where it's actually fairly economical, especially if you're in a business that's paying for a lot of your travel. There's ways that you can do the points, and you get the 4 p.m. late checkout. And so you can kind of get 2 days for one if you're doing it for a work purpose. There's a lot of ways to gain the system and get value too. But Anyway,
Yeah. Very
I'll
nice.
shut up.
You're good, man. So let's get into the final 5 questions. First of all, before that, bring your mom to Pittsburgh. We'll have fun.
That would be fun. You
Yeah.
would love my mom. My mom is,
Yes.
yeah, she's rocking. We
We'll,
would have
we'll have
fun.
fun. So, question 1 is, of all the places in the world that you've been, not
Yeah.
inside of your own home, wherever you have been, not inside of your own home, where is the best meal you've ever had? What
Oh,
is the best meal you've ever had?
the
Not,
best in the
not necessarily in a restaurant, but the best
man.
meal you've ever had.
That is a tough one. I mean, because for both food and sentimental, I got to give you three. But for sentimental and food, like I mentioned earlier, Sam's number three diner in Denver is incredible. And we just had such a great time there. I think it was more how much fun we had that made that one so great. On that same trip, as far as just incredible meals, Elway's Steakhouse was incredible. And then actually
Do
a
you
place
think
in,
can I ask you, do you think
yeah,
that Denver that was because it was in that place?
being with the cattle and everything.
I mean, I just because I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's multiple locations, right?
For Elway's Steakhouse? Yeah, I think there's a
I
few
think
of them.
so.
I think there's at least a few of them. There might be more than that. Yeah.
So do you think that it was because of the location? Like that was like the flagship, right? I would assume.
Yeah, that's the flick. Because, John Elway, I don't know if he still
Yeah,
owns it or if they
Denver,
just put his name.
right?
But yeah, he was Broncos quarterback, of course. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. And he's a staple. He's a big figure in that town. And then it is cattle country too. And I mean, I wasn't going to mention this one, but one of the just best steaks I've ever had was in Elko, Nevada, which most people probably have never heard of. That's right if you look on the map of Nevada, it's right smack in the center of the highway there on the top of the state. And that is hardcore cattle country. And we just stopped at the Red Lion Casino there to have dinner. And that was just, you wouldn't have expected it because it kind of looks like a dumpy kind of truck stop type feel. But I mean, it was an incredible steak. And I wondered if that was because it was so close to the cows. I don't know. But,
Maybe.
and then my last one for you on food, and I could talk to you about food for hours, but Terranea, which is a resort that's super fancy, but Terranea, which is actually where I took my now wife for our first date. That one has an incredible restaurant. And you're overlooking the ocean, and if you're looking for a romantic deal, that would be up there. But I don't know. You know me at this point, but I could give you 50 of them and ramble at you for another hour on food.
So your number one, was that because do you think the food was that good, or do you think it was like all of it?
I think it was
Is
all
it
of it. Yeah.
okay?
I mean, and honestly, even the Denver stuff I'm talking about, that was probably impacted to the bring full circle everything we're talking about is probably impacted because that was such a fun trip, and if you're in a good mood, everything tastes better. I mean, just purely food quality. There's obviously some incredible places here in Napa. Don Giovanni's Bistro is one of my favorites. Mustard's Grill. I mean, it's I love food and I love fast food. I love fancy food and everything in between. So it's hard for me to pick one, but the mood impacts the food, right? I mean, how if you're having fun, everything tastes better.
I agree, but for some people, it's just the food. So I'm always interested to know.
Yeah.
Okay, question 2 is my favorite question. Of all the places in the world that you've ever been, if I give you a free trip, you would turn it down. Where would you never go again?
Oh, where would I never go?
Yep. Where would you
Oh
never go
man,
again?
man, I would probably go anywhere, honestly. But my least favorite places, I really despise. I like the city of Seattle, but I hate the Seattle airport. So I'll actually purposely avoid. I'll pay extra to not fly through Seattle because I've just had horrible experiences with that airport. And then I hate to say it because I am going to go there again. And I love the people there. I love my family there. And I'm grateful to be there when I'm there. But just because of my distaste of the weather and all that, it would probably be somewhere well, I don't know. No, I was going to say Orlando, but I actually like Orlando. So I don't know. I'd probably go pretty much anywhere, Bill. That's what makes us travelers, though, right?
Yeah, and sometimes the answer is nowhere.
Yeah, I think I'd
So,
go anywhere. Honestly, I can't think of anywhere that I wouldn't go. Especially if it was free, it'd be hard for me to ever. You could probably tell me you got a free ticket to Afghanistan, and I would probably be like, okay, let's check it out.
yeah,
So
not Seattle. Seattle
just yeah, I
can,
mean, I would go to Seattle. I would just want to drive. I just really don't like that
yeah,
airport.
no, Seattle sucks. Yeah, we're done. It's okay. Okay, so flipping that on its head, of all the places you've been in the world, where is the one place that you have to go back?
Oh man. Oh, and I have to mention this just because I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet, but Lake Arrowhead, California is incredibly special to me. And yeah,
Why?
so again, I'm trying to make up for the beard thing here, so I feel like I'm overdoing it here, but I did get married there and just had a lot of good experiences there, and it's just such a special. So if Lake Arrowhead's so unique, most people probably have heard of Big Bear, but probably not as much Lake Arrowhead. Probably just think for the water. I didn't know Lake Arrowhead was a real place. I'd heard of the bottled water, but I didn't know it was like a real whatever. And the first time I went there, you drive through San Bernardino, and it's 80, 90 degrees, whatever it is in San Bernardino. And then you go just immediately up from like 0 feet elevation up like 6,000 feet, 5,000 feet, whatever it is, up the windiest road you could ever possibly imagine. I mean, people think everybody's got a wind. You've never experienced a road windier than this. But as you keep going up and up and up the mountain, you get these incredible views further. You can actually see, even though it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours from LA, you can see all the way to the ocean from there. And it's just like this cool ecosystem where 1 minute you can be in 80, 90 degrees in San Bernardino, and then 30 minutes, 25 minutes later, you're at the top of this mountain with this picturesque lake, and it's 30, 40 degrees cooler, and it's just a unique heavenly experience. So Lake Arrowhead is always going to be high on my list.
Very nice. Good answer.
I'm trying.
You're doing well. So, question 4 is, of all the places in the world that you have been and haven't been, where do you have to go?
Well, I would like to do more international travel. I'd love to see Switzerland. I actually have for different kind of weird reasons. I have a friend and partner of mine that, and I mean, I'm not, yeah, I won't even get off on that, but he's been doing deployments on his own dime to Ukraine to provide aid since that started. And just to people that are dying over there, because that's his background as is providing that type of support for them medically and all that. And so he's been trying to get me to go over there with him, and I'd like to do that at some point. Places in the U.S. that I have to go. Better answer to your question, because it's like I have to do it. Since I've been to 46 states, I got to see the other four. So I really feel like I would like Boston. That might be a negative thing for you since you're a New York guy, but I feel like I would love Boston, even though I've never been there. So I'd love to go to Boston and then drive maybe around fall time up through that Maine, Vermont, Rhode Island area and do that whole thing. And then I can check all 50 off. That would be great.
I think that would be beautiful. Yeah, especially in the fall.
On, on the list. On the
Yeah,
list.
absolutely. Last question is easy because you know the answer. What's on your docket? What's planned? Where are you going?
Well, and we were just in Florida for the whole month of April, and I'm kind of actually right now really happy to be home. So I'm kind of hoping I don't go anywhere anytime real soon. But for me, real soon means like the next few weeks. So I know we'll be going back to Florida. My brother is actually in Japan right now with the Navy, and so he gets back in September. I'm sure we'll be going there to welcome him home, and then probably going to pop down for work to Newport Beach, which is a fun kind of work because of some things to do with the property down there. And then I'm hoping to take my 81-year-old stepfather fishing in Alaska in July. So that would be pretty incredible. So
Awesome, man. This has really been great. A lot of fun. I knew we would have fun. So this has really been fantastic, and I think that we should probably do it again.
yeah,
Maybe sometime down the road when you've done some more traveling and we can talk about more stories that you've had. But this really was a lot of fun.
likewise, brother. No, you're great at what you do, and you're sincere with the passion for it. So really enjoyed it. Really did.
I appreciate that very much.
Love it, my friend. Thanks again.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always, and I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.